You're listening to the grand opening episode of the Great World Podcast. I'm your host, Isaac Edges, joined by co-host Jacob Fulmer and Daryl Foster.
All right, and today we have a very big topic to start off this podcast.
That's
We're
right.
going to be going over artificial intelligence for our grand opening episode.
Yeah.
Well, let's get right into that. So, Jake, what do you have to say for us about artificial intelligence?
Well, I picked this as our first episode for a reason, and I feel like it's become a very big part of our lives, really globally at this point. Everybody knows about it. Everybody is affected by it in some capacity. And so I felt like it would be a perfect way for us to start off the series.
Absolutely. So, Daryl, what are your thoughts on AI?
Good and bad and ugly.
How so?
Ugly because the art, you saw the AI generated images.
All right, deep fakes.
Not
things
just,
of that nature.
do you remember when I sent you all those silly AI generated images?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, some of those, oh man, there's something. Some of them look actually pretty good, by the way, so they look ugly. That's the ugly. The good, they could be used, to cure some good stuff, some like bad stuff. Yeah, you want to cure the good stuff. Yeah, let's cure the good stuff.
Well, I guess that's another thing, is are we promoting AI or are we talking about how bad it is?
Well, it's a mixed signal too, you know what I mean? Because it's good and bad in its own sense, and bad because people tend to use it to steal like art and music, you know what I mean? But the good thing is that it can be used to cure diseases and has been doing its job efficiently at that. But the bad thing too is that it's been efficiently doing its job at stealing art.
Right.
In which case it is theft, and on Twitter I agree with the people. Take the pen, take a pencil and draw. This is lazy. There's no soul in AI art. You know what I mean? It's soulless.
Right, so as with anything, artificial intelligence can be used either for good or for evil. I think the real question is it a net positive or a net negative to society? What do you guys think?
Well, I have to say, one of my biggest concerns about artificial intelligence is how quickly it's developed. I think back to, I believe it was in 2021 when I first heard about artificial intelligence, and it was not very advanced, I guess we'll say. There was a lot of issues with it. You could really tell that it was fake and that it was just outright completely just silly, the content that it would have when you typed in a prompt. And now it's to the point where we have images that are, pretty realistic when you look at them. And then you also have, you can have AI type up an entire essay for you in a couple of minutes. And that couldn't have been done just a couple of years ago. So my biggest concern would be how much it's advanced in a very short amount of time.
Right, it has advanced very quickly, and along with it, there are naturally a number of ethical concerns. Daryl, what do you think?
Okay, so like I said, I am on the fence on this, on good and bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I do think it can be a positive for society. Like I said, with how good it is for scientific reasons and medical reasons. Like detecting breast cancer early, that's good. You know what I mean? That's a really good development within AI. And that's why I appreciate AI to an extent, especially since AI is also an efficient learning tool. Just as long as you don't AI generate lyrics or anything, it could, because I did that just for fun. It was corny. It's so corny, it made me choke and puke.
Yes, I remember that.
You remember it very well. But
Yes.
but the good thing about it too, if you're wanting to do music, is that you can learn through AI, have it just ask it just questions and just teach yourself that way. But you can also search it up on the internet. It doesn't really matter either way, you know what I mean? This is either way, but AI can help out with education and whatnot in a sense. But just as long as it's not full on plagiarism, because AI like Copilot, they have sources. They give you the source of material. But of course, negative, people are going to be arguing about it. And also the inevitable time when AI overlords come around and bow down to your new AI overlords. Terminator at its finest.
Down the line, that definitely could be a real concern,
It is actually a real concern.
right? And I'll agree with you on that, Daryl. I'm sort of on the fence on the subject of AI.
Indubitably.
That as with anything, it can be used either for good or for evil. And I would say that I personally know enough about it to have a strong position. What about you, Jake? You have a strong position on the matter?
I think it depends on what we're using it for. As
Yes.
Daryl was talking about, there's a lot of really great things that we've been able to do.
Yeah.
So here brings up another really big question. I think it can be used for a lot of good purposes. So I don't think we should just get rid of it entirely. But here's a really good question: should it just be something that's done publicly? Like you know what I'm saying? Should it be for public use, like for anybody to use it, or should it just be done in intensive research projects?
I think it could be used by public. It should be used by public. It's why AI kind of exists too, in a sense. It's used for public use, but certain AIs are used for research purposes, of which the general public doesn't have access to. So that's why AI like Copilot, Gemini, and ChatGPT, which, as you have noticed within a few couple of months, has been getting extremely dumb because of all the misinformation that's been fed. But anyway, that's not the point. Don't use ChatGPT, use Copilot or Gemini. Okay, funny story about Gemini. So it took source from Reddit to cure your depression. Just jump off the Golden Gate Bridge.
There you have it, folks. Advice right here. You heard it first from Google.
Just jump off the Golden Gate Bridge.
Off the Golden Gate Bridge. There you have it.
Oh yeah, you see, AI is so good. I love AI.
And I guess it's not too surprising that there's still some glitches. Like
Yeah.
you said, it's a very new development,
It is.
so I guess
It's
it's
also-
going to have its flaws.
But Gemini is also, I think, relatively new, I believe, right? So of course it get its source from some random Reddit comment.
Naturally.
But at least I think Google managed to fix that. Rest in peace, their European law.
So, Jake,
laws.
to your point, you said naturally there are positives and negatives, applications used for both good and evil, but to the question, is it a net positive or a net negative to society? Do you have a strong position on that?
Well, I think we should break it down a little bit further as more from, is it just a positive or a negative in general? Because I think there can be more positives regarding a specific use for it, and then more negatives, like it be more in favor of the negative side on certain uses. Like we were talking about for research projects, I think that would be much more in the positive side. So I would much more support that than I would for public use, because that's where we see a lot of the issues from.
That is true.
Right. So, I'd like to break down the different applications of it and then get to your position on whether it's net negative or net positive. So, why don't we get into that? What do you think some of the most common applications of artificial intelligence are, guys?
I didn't paint. I don't know. Jake, what do you say?
So about the different applications, meaning different uses for
Right.
AI.
Right.
All right, well, I guess we'll just start kind of with research projects. That was one of the most original ones that we were talking about
Yeah.
here.
Which we've determined is overall positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course,
Because-
research could be done towards evil means. But
In what way would you say that would likely happen?
An evil genius from Isaac's brand new state, New England. Los Angeles, New England. He's an evil villain. He just stole all this great AI. He just has his hands together, just chuckling evilly. Oh,
Well, that's right. I suppose it could get to the point like, and we've seen this,
it could happen.
say with the deep fakes, where it's really sort of invading people's privacy. It could get to like sort of a voyeuristic application. So things like that, which could fall under the research blanket, obviously aren't great applications. But overall, I think the capacity for it is good. As we
So,
said.
if artificial intelligence, breaches people's privacy in order to conduct the research, then we would say that it's more in the negative side of things.
Right, it could be, but I'd say the capacity for research is a net positive or benefit of artificial intelligence. What would you say?
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that. That's why I think with regarding to that application, that it would be on more the positive side. And that's something that would be a lot more rare, I would say, if I had to, guess.
Daryl, your thoughts on that?
I mean, my thoughts are pretty much the same. Like, as long as you use it for good and not evil to grow big fat giants to take over the earth. Which, that's highly
Oh, gotta watch
unrealistic.
out for that one.
Which is highly unrealistic if you think about it. But at this point, nothing's unrealistic anymore.
See, that's what I'm talking about. You say that, and then tomorrow it'll happen.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
Especially now that you've said it, you just gave them all the
man, I
idea.
am so
Jake.
sorry I jinxed it.
Come on, Daryl, the
Me
computers
and my
are listening
fat
to you.
trap. Oh man, I am so sorry. Man, me and my flapper yapper. Oh man, flapper yapper. I didn't even know I'd say that.
Okay, so moving on, what's another common application of artificial intelligence?
You could say image generation.
Okay, what do we think about that?
Icky.
I think it's more negative than positive.
Indubitably.
I think
Well, negative.
because it's so artificial, it almost completely, eliminates the really good use behind it.
Okay, so that's a positive and a negative point for artificial intelligence. What's the next most common application of it, would you guys say?
Evil.
You be more specific, my friend?
Growing giant trees with limbs.
And this is a common application of artificial intelligence.
Oh yeah, Isaac, you didn't even hear about that?
No?
Some random guy in Michigan decided to do it.
Wait, Jake, have you heard about this?
I don't believe that I have. Daryl, can you please inform us all a little bit more about that?
Well, it came from, okay, this guy's from another nation. My imagination.
Oh. That's my favorite kind of nation right
Oh,
there.
well, you really had us there.
How would
Becoming deeply concerned, Daryl.
Oh yeah, you were totally concerned.
I was.
How concerned were you on a scale 1 to 1 million?
Well, I'll just say this, Daryl. I wasn't sure that I'd live to see tomorrow.
It could happen any day, you would never know.
I'm sure Jake here can attest to that.
About what, specifically?
Oh, just some random guy from another nation, just creating giant trees with limbs. It's great for oxygen, terrible for humans.
Yes.
Right.
So what are some other uses of artificial intelligence?
Well, I guess chatbots.
Oh yeah.
Chatbots. Okay. And what do we think about chatbots?
I think more good than bad.
Daryl?
Once again, I'm on the fence on this one. Yes, it's good, but in the case, I have an application called Character AI. It's pretty funny. Trust me, it gets really funny. But the thing it is that I went to the subreddit, and I think some people are actually genuinely using it as a way to cope with their loneliness, which is a negative in a sense. And, having some form of codependency with the chatbot is saddening. But
See how that could become a real issue.
yes,
So that's inconclusive on the chatbots front. What are some other uses of AI?
Well, I would say those are probably the main ones, but I do want to highlight something on what you just said, Daryl, about the chat bots.
What's up?
I think the issue with the way that we're doing, or the way that they're done right now, is, I mean, they could start replacing, you could almost say, well, this chat bot is my friend, and I mean, I'm not saying that everybody, that uses these AI chat bots are using these as a replacement for having friends, but what I'm saying is that there's a real possibility that, that it leads to a not so great thing if people are relying on these for, a source of, well, I want to talk to somebody, so I'm going to rely on this chatbot, At that point, we're not really making human connections anymore between person to person.
Right, because then one day the internet goes down and it's, oh no, my best friend!
You're on your phone just typing away with the chatbot who's a girl. It's like, oh yeah. And then the internet goes out. It's like, what? No! My beautiful chatbot girlfriend!
Or your phone dies, experiencing grief. Close relative.
You already go through the 5 stages of grief.
Yeah, guys, I didn't tell you I was wearing black today. Lost a close relative on my God rest his soul.
But, but on a serious note, it is genuinely concerning how it leads to isolation, and then it leads to insanity, and then it leads to you being in a mental health hospital and or an asylum and you can call yourself the Joker at that point. Wahoo!
Well, that was a very quick jump there, but I mean, it is true. We have to be very careful with these things. And the other thing is, what's going to happen to the next generation that's already had these from the very beginning?
Gen Alpha is already cooked. They're saying so many terrible things, and they already know so much stuff that they shouldn't even be knowing at their
Right,
age.
again there, because their childhood friends were artificial intelligence.
Well, what I'm saying is that they have unrestricted access to the iPad, but I guess you have a point, I guess.
Right.
Can they even spell properly? Come on.
Just gotta make sure to have that iPad charged up. Or want them losing their childhood friends.
Speaking of which, I did use a chatbot, which was based off Gen Alpha. It was really funny. It's just super funny just to say, hey, I hate you and you're stupid.
I see, well, that would explain a lot.
Oh, wait, what are you trying to get at, Isaac? What are you trying to
What
get
am I
at?
trying to get at, Daryl? I think we both know.
Enlighten me. I want you to tell me.
Yeah, we'll get back to that later.
Enlighten me right now. Buddy. Anyway.
So to this point, it still seems inconclusive on the topic of whether artificial intelligence is a net negative or a net positive to society.
Yeah. I mean, AI has always been very inconclusive from the start anyway.
Well, I think now that we've looked at each category, I mean, what really stands out just on any application? What really stands out let's start off with the positives. So what just stands out overall about artificial intelligence that we think is a positive or is having a positive effect on society?
I do think it's a research, for medical and scientific reasons. I think that's a high positive, if you know what I mean.
Right.
It's so high that it's at this point out of the galaxy.
And here's another fairly recent application of artificial intelligence
What's that?
that I thought was very interesting. So the famous country music singer, Randy Travis, you're not familiar with them, a year or two ago he suffered a stroke. Now he wrote a song recently, but his voice isn't what it used to be after suffering a stroke. And so between sampling the voices of guys who had voices similar to his and sampling his old songs, they were able to make a song that sounded almost exactly like his voice, which was very interesting, and yes, I would say a positive application of artificial intelligence.
Yeah, but the funny thing is that people are AI generating instrumentals.
Really? So tell me about that.
So there's several websites where you can just input a prompt. I forgot all of those website names because they're so forgettable.
Right.
But there are websites that allows you to AI generate music, whether it be like whether you want to sound like Kanye West, Travis Scott, or anybody else.
Yes.
You know, or just some form of beat you want. You know, it's not that good. And also you can AI generate singers. There's actually one that's somewhat popular. It fell off, but apparently she uses GPT, and what's funny is that they forgot to include the line like professional songwriter. It's just songwriter, so the lyrics are terrible. I can try and find. I watched a YouTube video on it. I can try and find it. Y'all can talk about more AI stuff until I find it.
I'll certainly see how those things can become questionable ethically or used in a dishonest way. Jake, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, if we're using it for dishonest purposes, then we've certainly completely, and we're going about it the wrong way.
I found it. It's Anna, Indiana. That's a bot that's like popular and whatnot. I can play the song. It's not even copyrighted. Take a listen to it.
I see a sweet message coming from you. I knew right away.
This is AI.
Be true. You asked to meet tonight at 9, but the name on that text ain't mine.
Oh man, I love the comments on this too. This song on mute is fire. Touche, Truth in the Swirl, great song. I'm assuming this person is not being serious. Oh wait, it might be being serious. And the crowd goes mild. And the crowd goes mild. Yeah, this is all you hear. Yahoo. Yeah. Keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a
That's a new
mild.
one. We'll have to try that one out, but of course, not on the Great World Podcast.
Well. Ah, man.
I think we've identified a lot of the positives. What about some of the negatives that we can have? Like some of the just negatives that really stand out.
Well, right on.
The one I just mentioned. The one I just played.
So there's that, Daryl's favorite song.
Oh yeah, it's really my favorite song. It's so good. Oh man.
Oh, absolutely. It's a real beautiful work of art.
2
right
weeks
there.
ago,
Incredible.
Chasing Trouble. Oh man.
Absolutely.
I didn't know this song existed. Wow, we. I hate these lyrics.
Well, very nice. So there's that. Of course, right out the gate, in addition to deep fakes, I think that's a real concern. Anything else you guys might add?
So what about deep fakes? Do you consider it to be bad?
Propaganda uses. That's one thing.
Well, I'd say generally the use of them is bad if they're not intrinsically bad. Do you know what a deep fake is?
Yeah, but I mean, I think it would be good to, give our audience a bit of an explanation behind that.
All right, so essentially a deep fake is taking an actor. It's using his name, image, and likeness, and using it to speak, say, from generative text, text-to-speech type of thing. Whatever you like to have this actor say, he will say. That's the gist of it. And those tend not to be used for good.
I thought deepfakes were just replacing one's face with another face, because what made it sound like is text-to-speech. Text-to-speech makes them say whatever you want to say. Deepfake, you just plaster someone's face on there, whether it be for humor or for terrible reasons.
And see, that's the thing is the humor that it's causing, is it really great? Is it really worth the harm that it's creating?
Well,
That's a great question, and I don't know that it is.
oh, you gotta
What would you say?
Sometimes it's funny. I never saw any myself.
I mean, I'm not saying that we can't get a good laugh out of it. I just think that if there's such that high of a risk, that it might not be worth, doing that for. The only thing that I think should be added on that is we were talking about how or at least I said at the beginning about how I believe that it's for more good uses when it comes to, solving medical issues that we've had.
Yeah.
But how that maybe it being released to the public is not really a good idea. This is part of the reason why I feel like it would be best for it not to be released to the public, just because of what it could cause. The fact that the public is able to do stuff like this, like deep fakes, and, that could be a real danger, I have to say.
Right.
So
Right.
for that reason, it might be really causing more negatives for artificial intelligence to be open to the public, to have and use and, create these issues that we're talking about here.
So you believe that artificial intelligence ought to be reserved for professionals?
Yes, I think that professional use would be a lot better use for artificial intelligence, at least until there's a way to get a better handle on it.
Jake, you're taking away my beautiful AI girlfriend. No. No, Jake, what do you say? Oh, wait.
Oh, that's all right, Daryl. You can see her later. She was just here singing.
Oh, she wasn't. She's a fraud. I'm talking about my beautiful
She's a
chat.
frog? Oh, I
I
see.
said fraud.
Well, Daryl, I didn't know you were into that, but okay.
No, I'm not
I guess
that.
now we all know.
I said fraud, but all right.
That's right. So I think the concern there, I think that sort of assumes that professionals would be using it in a way more responsibly than individuals would be generally. And I just don't know that that's the case. I don't know that that's a reliable assumption. It might be in certain cases, but I think that's a pretty generalized statement, and I don't know that it's true.
Well,
So let's clarify your position.
Yeah.
So you say professional applications, so you mentioned the medical profession. What other professions do you think ought to be using artificial intelligence?
maybe, I guess medical use is the main one.
Right,
I could see it being useful for like a newspaper,
right,
or just somebody trying to release an article online. It could be useful because you could get some ideas of how to, make it a little bit better, how to improve the article.
right.
So even then, though, it's not 100% reliable. And I guess to get a little bit more specific on how this professional use would work is you would only be allowed to use it it wouldn't just be, well, anybody that has a profession where this would be useful for is able to use it anytime they want to. It would just be those people can only do it while they're doing something that is for their job, like at the job site. So unfortunately, what that means is if this were to be put in motion, people could not use artificial intelligence if they were working from home because they would have to be at a business site.
So you believe it ought to be used for the medical profession and for the media. Say outside of this, not to make things personal, the field I'm looking to go into, though, business management currently employs artificial intelligence for automating workflows and a number of things that would otherwise be delegated to additional employees that you would have to be on payroll. It's definitely beneficial in certain areas on that front. So do you think I ought to be able to use artificial intelligence for my work, Jake?
From where?
Business management.
For business management.
Yeah.
So you're talking about from like future work where you're going to be at. I think if it's under the domain, yes.
Okay.
So there would be restrictions to what the artificial intelligence domain is.
Okay.
And AI is specifically made for business management.
So what would your requirements be? Like safe for business, would it be at minimum, you have to have a registered LLC or corporation or something to verify your identity to be
Yes.
able to access this.
Yeah,
And
and I
then for
think
the
it
medical
would,
profession, I guess it would be that your institution would have to sign off, say like Mercy Hospital, they would have to sign off, have verified for that.
yes, and then you would have to sign a paper that says that you're not allowed to use artificial intelligence for other purposes besides the job that you are employed to.
Right.
And that if you were caught using it for personal use, that would be considered a violation of that agreement and potentially would even be considered a crime. So basically that means that for public use of artificial intelligence, it would be considered a crime for use for that.
Right, so another concern that might crop up here
Yeah.
is, I think this whole thing, your whole argument, operates a little bit on good faith. It assumes that all of these professionals are going to use it far more responsibly than a person would, just an individual at home. And I don't know that that's always the case. And I think reserving it specifically for those professionals could potentially even offer incentive for them to abuse that. As sad as that may sound, I think that would be a real concern if that were the case. So, for instance, say you have a crooked doctor or a crooked businessman that, for whatever reason, is using this in a way that sort of swindles or puts their employees at a disadvantage, and of course, or not their employees, rather their customers. It puts them at a disadvantage or swindles them in some way. But because they haven't had access to that, they simply don't know about that. That makes them very vulnerable.
Well, I think there's some good and some bad to kind of what you're saying right now. You know, like that there's that there's a good side that I kind of showed, and then now you're saying that you think that they could use it for bad too. So then that means that we're back to the original problem, where even in the professional use, that we could still have it being misused.
Right.
So at that point, I would say, what I would say for that is that it would need to be monitored very closely. And so I would say that you would have to have, so whichever business that you're working for would have a board that would be overseeing what you do. And you say, well, what if the board is working in your favor, right? Or if there's some bias there. Well, then you have an overall board at, a state level. Then you go to a federal level, where you have a board, if you know what I'm saying. So you have people at a national level who are overseeing, the process. They're overseeing to make sure that you are only using it for professional use.
Right.
So, and the only way that they would be able to use artificial intelligence is when they're on the job site. So if they're off the job site, they're not able to use it. It's not like we're really going off of the honor system, if you want to call it that.
And in that case, I still say that the boards even, I think, in the same way, there would still be incentive for them to abuse that. And I think really the way to keep professionals honest when using this is for artificial intelligence or the applications to be open to the public. They know what they're doing. The companies ought to be transparent about the artificial intelligence that they're using.
Yeah, I think they could be public about what they're using it for, but not public in they're able to also use it, if that makes sense. So they can reveal to the public, so this is what we're using artificial intelligence for, but they would just be viewing what the companies are using it for. They wouldn't actually be able to alter any of it using artificial intelligence themselves. That would be my solution to that. So yes, there is some transparency to the public, and if somebody has some concerns based on that transparency, they can bring that up, and possibly bring the company to court if they feel like the company is misusing artificial intelligence. Would you say that would fix the problem?
I wouldn't say so, and I wouldn't say that that's the best approach. As in anything, like the chair I'm sitting on, I'm sure that could be used for good and evil. I could get up and beat you with this chair.
This chair could whack you over the head. That's evil.
And also break underneath you.
So,
Just out of nowhere.
That's the chair itself being evil. You're just being evil with the chair by crashing over someone's head.
that evil chair.
The evil chair. Watch out, folks.
And with professionals and people misusing this in general, I'm sure that it's bound to go on as long as it exists. Whether we try to do something about this or not, and I think perhaps a more effective approach would be, say, a professional application to offer artificial intelligence training. They often have that, they have panels on that currently, and I think that that is a much better approach. And for the honest fellow, say, that's wanting to use AI to help him out with some project or another, I think he ought to have access to that.
So you're saying that we should still have access to the public level, at a public level?
I'd say so, yeah.
Wouldn't that still create the same issues as before? Like the ones that we're talking about that are currently going on?
Well, I suppose that would allow it, but I think the best preventative thing like would be, as artificial intelligence becomes more and more prevalent in society, just offering training for that. Now, I'm sure certain people will continue to misuse it, but again, there's only so long that you can get away with things of that nature without, say, breaking the law or being fired. And I'd say something even more resembling the existing system still would be much more practical, especially at this point and where AI and its development is at.
Well, it's like a lot of things. When it's first introduced or when people first start doing it, there's good things and there's bad things, with a lot of inventions. And then eventually we start to kind of crack down on that a little bit, if you know what I'm saying. You get kind of where I'm going with that. Like the more that we have artificial intelligence, the more restrictions that we'll be able to put on the bad stuff, and the more, that will allow for the good stuff. The more availability we'll have for good uses.
That's a thought, and yes, I would suppose we've talked about artificial intelligence, how it's a very new thing, and to your point, I would say that the system you suggested, and presumably you'd like to see that implemented very soon. Well, I don't think it's a great policy to begin with, but I think it would most definitely be premature implementing it anytime soon.
Yeah, I would say, all right, so I think you definitely have a good point about how it'd be a little bit too soon to just kind of go ahead and say that right off the bat, right?
Yes.
But I think we should also consider that there is something that needs to be done about it. So maybe going about it in a slower approach. You think, is that kind of what you're suggesting? Is that we go about it a little bit slower at trying to remove some of the bad things within artificial intelligence?
Right. And I don't know that that approach exactly would be a preventative one, and I think a more effective one would be maybe say schools like crack down on it, not by banning that, but just the regular academic dishonesty policies, and maybe as it makes it easier to detect that. But I think barring its use, I don't think that would be a positive thing exactly. And I think at some point most folks are going to gain access to it at some point, and I think it's better that they be prepared. So I think a better approach would be offering training on it, how to use it properly, prudently, in a way that, of course, where you're not committing academic dishonesty or developing a deep fake or something of that nature. Well, it's pretty easy to do something like that unknowingly or develop a deep fake by mistake. You get my drift.
Well, and I think we've already started to see that, where academic dishonesty has already started to, they've already started to go ahead and put some policies in place for that. So
Right.
I think we're already starting to see that, and I think as we go further in the future, we will see less and less of that. We'll see less problems, is what I'm saying, when it comes to artificial intelligence. And so although we could possibly argue that right now that there's more negatives than positives with artificial intelligence, or at least that's my viewpoint, I can certainly see with modifications, if we make them 10, 20, 30 years down the line, I could change my opinion about that if those restrictions are started to be put in place. And I feel like that they will. And so I see myself having a different standpoint on this 10 years down the road. What about you guys?
Right, it's not abundantly clear what those would be, but I certainly would like to see improvements on that front, and I'd say it's fairly likely. Daryl, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, we'll just see how time takes us, I guess. It really depends on if they're going to make actual laws concerning AI.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see. I mean, I feel like that laws will start to be put in place, and once that happens, who knows where we'll go from there. But at least that's where we're at as of for today.
All righty. Well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Thanks for listening to the Great World Podcast. Until next time, I'm Jacob Fulmer, signing off.
I'm Daryl Foster, going away.
And I'm Isaac Hedges, host of the Great World Podcast. How do? Hello, hi.
And he's Isaac Hedges. Hey, Deleu, hi. Hey, Deleu, hi, everybody. You know.
That's right, folks. Thanks for tuning in this time. I'm Isaac Hedges, host of the Great World Podcast.
And we'll see you next Tuesday here.
From all of us at GWP International, good night and God bless. And until next time, I'm Isaac Hedges signing off.
Well.